Last week, I did a full analysis of the Magnificent Seven. We were specifically looking at 3 rules that I used to see which one might be performing better than the rest, which is the best in class for the upcoming week. The rules I use, which one is an outlier? An outlier would be a stock that's simply going a different direction than the rest. We were in a correction mode. We were pulling back hard. We were going to look at all of them and say, is one of them simply not correcting right now, or is it even going up? Well, we didn't have that, but we did end up picking an outlier, and that's going to be the subject of today's video. But let me just recap the other 2 rules. We also looked at how hard or how little each of them had been hit by the market. So what was the percentage they came down? We looked at volume for all of them. Volume is our best momentum signal. And we also looked at which ones were moving the fastest, because sometimes when they reverse and begin to go back up, it's a signal that they're going to do very well. Sometimes if they're moving to the downside the fastest, it's a signal they're going to continue to move to the downside. I'm going to talk about that video I did, and we're going to talk about the 2 outliers that I identified for you between those 2 videos. One of them was Microsoft, and I said, guys, Microsoft is performing better than the rest. And the other outlier, but not the good outlier, was NVIDIA. I told you guys, NVIDIA looked like it was going to be getting hammered. It was the first to move to the downside. It was moving down the highest percentage, so it was the hardest hit. And so sure enough, we're seeing some follow through with that analysis this week. And so when I do those videos, I want you guys to realize we do that analysis of those Magnificent Seven so that we can see which one's going to be moving forward faster, which one do we need to stay away from or load up on puts. It played out perfectly. I'm going to get into all of that in just a minute. This is the Stocks with Josh show. Thank you for already hitting the like. Hit that subscribe and that YouTube all notification bell if you need help trading big tech and these choppy markets. All right, I'm going to be traveling today. I'm getting ready to head out to New Orleans for a week, and so that does sometimes keep me from putting out a video every day, but I will stay connected and I will be talking to you guys in the Discord. Real quick, I got a couple questions yesterday on the video I did. We had some huge wins on AMD for those who followed me, but I had a question. Someone said, Josh, when did you talk about the AMD trade? Well, I'll give you the exact video. Top swing trades, is it time to pivot? Wednesday, October 11th. Let me play a clip for you from that video. We've seen AMD pull back quite a bit, and I believe at the moment it's forming a bottom. And what I identified in the chart was an inverse head and shoulders pattern, which has yet to be confirmed or completed, but I'm going to begin to watch it. And what I've identified is that the neckline is right around 112. If my eyes are correct, it means that it really should come back to 112. And so today, on the low, I bought some call options. Even though the chart largely looked bearish, there was a little bit of a double top around $110.10. But betting on the fact that it needed to get to 112 to complete that inverse head and shoulders in the course of time, I decided to buy in today. Now I'm going to be watching it. You can watch it with me, and we're going to see if it gets up to that 112, where I'm going to sell and take profits, and then I'm going to turn around and buy some puts, because I think it's going to come under some pressure and eventually move all the way back to $101, which would then go on to complete the right shoulder of the inverse head and shoulders. And so I'm going to be riding it up today and tomorrow, and then I'm going to be hoping to ride it down from that point forward. But, you know, none of us have a crystal ball. That's what I'm doing. Guys, the entire game plan was laid out in that video, and so I did the homework. I laid out the trade setup for you guys. I followed the trade setup, and it was a win all the way along the path. And now I wanted to give you guys this update, not just to say it worked, but to tell you guys what I'm doing next with it. We're also going to get into Microsoft here in just a minute. But as you can see, we went from 106 to 111.31. Then we went down to that 104 range. We picked up calls back to 108. Then we loaded puts down to 101. Then I picked up calls back to 106, and then I loaded 2 days ago more puts back to the 103 level today. That was another 100% gain on my put options, and we popped up a little bit, and at the moment I'm looking to reload some puts because I don't believe we've come back as far as we need to. I think the markets are still in some trouble, so that's my game plan with AMD. Guys, don't miss these videos, and I'm giving more detail than that and the trade alerts over in the Discord, Discord, which is the Patreon that I have with Stockmo, Keenan Grace, and Stock Up with Larry Jones. There's a link in the top pinned comment for that. So when I did my analysis of the Magnificent Seven, I told you guys that Microsoft was the bullish outlier, and it did tell us that we were going to be going up from there. So why did that happen? So an unofficial news release came out that Microsoft is going to onboard Amazon as a mega client in a $1 billion cloud tools deal. This came from an insider. It wasn't an official press release. And on that news, the shares moved up after hours more than 1%. But here's where things get interesting. So because of that move, I went last night and analyzed the charts, and I've been watching them this morning. And I'll be honest, they're not looking terribly bullish. And so let's just kind of dive into what the charts are telling us is going to happen next. Because even though this is good news, and even though Microsoft might outperform the rest of the Magnificent Seven over the course of the next couple weeks because of this good news, the fact is the overall macro environment, I've been coming to you guys this week with videos such as the market is lying and scary October charts. I've been coming to you guys letting you know that we're going to see some volatility, if not this week, in the next couple weeks, that's going to be pretty significant and is likely going to knock us down to the lower levels of support. And so I'm going to draw those out for you. At the moment, we are under the 5 EMA on Microsoft on the daily time frame chart, and that's bearish. We hit the target that I gave you guys of resistance 2 times at $334. And so the day I did that video on Microsoft and I gave you guys that resistance and I told you it was looking pretty good, if you had loaded up on calls, you would have hit that 334, which would have been a very nice profit. But the fact is that if we take a broader view, we see that since August, Microsoft has really been entirely range bound and the price is compressing. If you go and you look at the RSI, it's also compressing. Momentum is sort of just straightening out. Price action is straightening out. And we're really at the same price we were at the beginning of August. And so this is an alarm. Let this be like an alarm bell that's going off in your head. Price compression can mean one of two things, that it's either going to expand to the upside or violently expand to the downside. And with the risks that I've been outlining in the market, I would say that for me, I would say the greater precaution to take here is that this could expand to the downside. It could happen very, very quickly. And that brings up our lower level of support, which I gave you guys, which was 324. And I think that this particular news story is going to end up being buy the rumor, sell the news. We've retested this 334, 335 twice, and I think that it's not showing strength over that resistance, which means that that's a sell zone, and it means that we're very likely going to come back to 324, and that's where I could see us getting a bounce and moving higher, even as high as 340. And so that's the way to play this for me, is to load up on some puts here, wait for it to pull back to 324, load up on calls for it to shoot up to 340. That is the game plan on Microsoft. If you're new to these markets and you're trying to get your trade game up and you need better trade tools, check out the offer from the Moomoo Investment app. They're currently giving away up to 16 free stock. It's a free to trade platform with what I'd consider some of the best news, tools, earnings calendar that's available for retail traders. Click on the link to find out the exact offer that's good for you. It's available in the US, Australia, and Canada. Go ahead and check it out. Okay, I'm just going to keep this a short video because I got to get a flight here in the next couple hours. I'm going to remind you guys of what I said. We're watching the VIX. Right now, we came to a real low back in July. The VIX came all the way down to $13. The market was really calm. And since then, the VIX has been slowly climbing. And I gave you guys the signal that when we got to 26 on the VIX, which would be a double of volatility from 13, that could be a signal that the selling had gotten out of the system. I don't think the selling's out of the system yet. It's still looking pretty shaky to me. Stocks have not had any kind of momentum going up. Apple's been one that's been proving that to us. It just has not wanted to go up and hit 182, 185. It has not wanted to hit these basic levels of resistance that it should have hit already by now, even today. And so it's just showing me a lot of weakness. And what all of that means is that largely the market has still been the most profitable, taking to the downside. So anytime we get the mildest rip in any way, any type of movement up, Loading puts has been the most profitable back to the downside, including the SPY, including the QQQ. I've done some TQQQ to balance that. So when I'm wanting to go bullish, I load up on TQQQ. After a bit, there's been some heavy selling, some calls back to the upside. But at the moment, it looks to me like the markets still have some trouble ahead. And so, based on yesterday's video, I pretty much freaked everybody out because I compared our current environment to 1929 and 1987, two of the worst days in the market. But let me just remind you guys of my point. What I think that you need to be prepared in doing is to reorganize your portfolio and take some risk off and to raise some cash. You need to have some cash to be in a position to take advantage of the volatility and the opportunity that opens up. Don't regret that if the markets did have a massive pull down, that you would not have the cash to buy anything. And even if the markets began to take off, do you have the cash to be in the fastest moving car? Today we've got Tesla's earnings. I'm watching it very closely, which I gave you guys the support and resistance, the trigger, points of control to watch. Anything above 256, this thing is going on a bull run. Anything beneath 250, and it's going on a bear run. So that's what we're going to be watching with Tesla. I hope you guys are going to have a great trade day. Hit that subscribe if this was helpful and beneficial and you want more of it. Thank you guys for hitting the like. Peace and blessings to all of you. We'll see you soon.